he was cast like maybe a week and a half before we started shooting. And that's a weird story because
that big of a role was a week.
Yeah, dude,
a week and a half.
It was crazy. So the initial
I'm getting nervous for you. Right now.
It was nerve-wracking.
He was charged with 4 different things, but one of them was illegal gun possession, and I didn't have to think twice about it because they put him on the stand, and the prosecutor goes, she goes, when you were arrested by the police, did they take any of your possessions? He goes, yeah, they took my gun. And she goes, was it registered? He goes, no. She's like, okay. And that was the entire bit there. I was like, great. And then a crime was committed with that gun.
Wow.
I was like, yikes. But yeah, I was on it with George and a PR woman named Jennifer, and we all became friendly.
No kidding.
Oh, I swear.
Like Jury Duty, which I just watched.
What an incredible show.
Such a great show.
Well, I guess like when you're talking about all of that, oh, you haven't even had your tea yet.
Pretty good.
It hits the spot for you?
Does.
So, well, I guess let's get right into it. For those steeping at home, so this is California Tea House, which is a local. I try and go for the local teas when I can. Cheers to you, sir.
Me too.
It's California Tea House's Chunky Cherry. So if you're doing this at home,
tea.
do you? Yeah, that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
If you're doing this at home, it's going to be weird because you usually do this with a green tea. Just below boiling, I did it at 200 for 2 minutes. So that's how you do it.
There you go.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, so as someone who, because you just mentioned you watched Jury Duty.
Yes.
As someone who is writing, you're doing all genres. From the stuff you've written that I've taken in.
Okay.
You are genre agnostic. What are you watching?
Genre agnostic.
I think is that bad to say?
No, it's pretty great. I've never thought of it that way. Everyone always just calls me a horror writer.
I have so many responses to that.
Yeah.
But before I answer that,
I can never say the word horror.
I can't either. I say scary movies because when I say horror, it sounds like I'm saying a horror. Yeah.
What am I watching? It's Halloween season, so now I'm watching a ton of scary movies.
We call it Spooktober in this house.
Spooktober, okay. Watching a ton of scary movies, watching old and new. Like last night I did pumpkin carving with my husband and 2 of our best friends, and the 4 of us watched Halloween when we were done.
The original Halloween.
Which is
phenomenal.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful knife, but it's good.
Just finished Jury Duty. We were late to that, which was great.
I watched it before I think I was on Jury Duty.
Oh, no kidding.
And a lot of people were like, is it like that? I'm like, no, it is not.
Yeah, it was really funny though. Thank God they found like a sweet guy. I was telling my husband when we got done because we really loved the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God, like, what was the main character's name?
Ronald.
Yeah, I was like, thank God Ronald wasn't like canceled or whatever.
Yeah, like a
because
total jerk.
Some asshole was watching that show and was like, I'm gonna find his deepest, darkest secret and ruin his life.
Absolutely.
And I was very thankful that didn't happen to him because he was so sweet.
I really don't think I give so much credit to the people that produced that show. I don't think you could have gotten luckier at finding someone who was just so genuinely like
just a good
sweet,
person.
caring.
Yeah.
No matter how much you interview somebody, there's no way to know for sure that you're getting that.
And they watching the final episode where they like kind of show some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah.
You could tell like when they'd show clips and they'd go to like the control room where the producers were sitting, you could tell that they were like, holy shit, like we really lucked out with this guy.
They got a total winner.
And he kept doing like the patience he showed was like unexpected too, because they kept being like, oh my God, he's like totally just letting this go, or he's being super helpful.
He's just like being so supportive.
Yeah.
When that guy like was trying to give him money, he's like, I guess I owe you $2,000.
Yeah.
And he's like, no,
Can't take it. I probably would have taken it, but
I would take it now. Like, even if I knew cameras were on me, I'd be like, I'll take it.
So what else have we watched? We watched a ton of movies lately.
What is interesting about I want to jump in immediately because I loved Freaky and I loved It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen both.
Okay, great.
I said this off mic a little bit. I feel like you are threading such a hard needle to thread in both of these movies. In Freaky, you're bringing a body swap comedy into a horror genre. I just tried it. Horror, hard to say.
To a scary movie.
And then to a scary film. and then you did it again in It's a Wonderful Knife, literally bringing a Christmas movie. As I'm sitting watching with my fiance, I said, I was like, by the title, I know this has to map. I have no idea how this is going to map, but it has to. And then it does. And I'm like, oh, Lord. You're threading such a thin needle. How do you ever get nervous? Because you're doing something, you're treading ground that I don't think a lot of people have.
Yeah, I do get a little nervous. I'm thankful that, I did Freaky with Chris Landon, who is kind of like the king of this genre, if you ask me. He,
plus Blumhouse, I think was
Blumhouse was Freaky as well. And when it comes to these horror comedies, these high concept horror comedies, I think no one does them better than Chris.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough he and I are still working together on some stuff right now that we're doing another one that's kind of
exclusive. Do we have an exclusive? No.
I can't say. It's not so much a specific movie.
Okay.
It's more a genre of movies that we're combining with horror.
Love it.
But it's a little nerve-wracking in the sense, learning a lot from Chris. You can really kill it quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you pull a thread, the rest will unravel, But the biggest thing I learned is like, don't sacrifice one genre for the other just for like a joke.
Tell me more about that. I want to understand more.
Like you gotta take, obviously it's not super serious when you're doing a body swap slasher, when you're doing a slasher about a girl who wishes she was never born and then the killer's still around. But you got to play the emotion.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes from, right? So like these Freaky, I think the reason Freaky was such a success is because it was an unexpected and emotionally driven film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heart in that movie. And we knew when writing it that we were going to put a lot of heart in it. And like the scene in the backseat of the car, totally an unexpected moment, but because we played it, I hate saying this, but we played it straight. You know what I mean? Or like the scene with Millie's mom and Millie in the dressing room.
Yeah.
You have these sweet, earnest moments that you don't sacrifice for a joke. So you got to treat the scares like that too. You'll do the scares, have a joke, but like we got to do scary sequences straight up, but then we got to do like that chase scene in Freaky where Vince Vaughn is chasing after his two friends, and that's fucking hilarious because they think they're being chased by a serial killer. The audience knows they're being chased by their best friend.
Yeah.
So it plays a lot differently than a normal chase scene. So you're like kind of doing some newer things, but yeah, it's a tough needle to thread because like it can get too hokey. You got to be really cognizant of like every decision.
I completely agree with that. And I think you did that. Is there a reason, let me rephrase that. Was there a motivation to pursue what in my opinion is kind of a harder path? Like you could have given, in my opinion, the comedic chops that you've shown in both of these movies, like you can write straight ahead comedies, no problem. I feel like you could do that in your sleep. You chose, in my opinion, which is a little harder of a road.
Yeah.
What drove you to do that? Because this feels like a very tough thing that you are doing.
It's a risk because, for a while there, it's not so much anymore because I think you're seeing a lot of them now. But for the longest time, I wrote a script in like 2015 that I was trying to sell and no one would buy it because they're like, no, horror comedies don't make money.
Oh, that was already back then. You were already doing horror comedy.
Yeah, I was kind of doing horror comedy. I started in TV. I worked as a PA and then an assistant and then a writer's assistant on Family Guy.
Oh,
for a while, and then I was there for 4 years. And then one of the writers on that show got his own animated show on Fox. So I worked on a comedy series for a season.
Sure,
and I liked it, but I also left that. We got canceled after a season, and I got done on the season, and just kind of was like feeling a little unfulfilled in the sense like I was like, I don't think half-hour comedy is for me. I love horror movies. Scary movies have always been my favorite thing. I actually moved out here to write scary movies and kind of inadvertently found myself in TV because I got a PA job and just kept working my way up. And I actually wrote a scary movie on spec, and I had another friend at the show read it, and she actually said to me, she goes, the script's really funny. Have you ever thought about writing a comedy? So in that point, I decided, okay, maybe I'll write a pilot. So I wrote a comedy pilot. kept writing comedy pilots because I really liked Family Guy and I really liked just how that show was run and how it was made and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe I do want to do a half-hour comedy.
Yeah.
So I wrote a half-hour comedy spec for Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and then I wrote
Incredible
a pilot, and it ended up getting me staffed on a show, and I was like, oh, maybe I do know comedy.
Oh.
But then when I got done with that season, I was like, I miss the genre that I really love.
I'm curious. I'm sure I don't know it. What was the show?
Portertown?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was a Seth MacFarlane produced show.
Sure. One of the 90 he has on television.
Yeah, one of the
now.
400 he had at the time.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of was in a career low after that. I didn't work for like a year. And my husband, now I was dating him really in the early stages of our relationship.
You were at a career low, but meeting someone who
and
was a relationship
like 3 months
high.
sober.
Yeah,
I was going through like major life changes at the same time.
You're just like, bring it all. Put it in a soup. I'm going to drink this whole thing down. Yeah.
And so I had that script the slasher script that I was telling you about that was kind of funny. And he asked to read it, and he goes, "It's a really good script." He goes, "You should be doing this. You can tell you love doing this just by reading this."
Yeah.
So he kind of gave me a pep talk of like, this is you. I can tell this is you. And we'd only been together a few months.
I was about to say, there's early stage dating.
There's early stages, but he's like, I can tell this is you. He already knew my obsession with horror movies. I was already making him watch scary movies all the time.
Was he a writer?
He was a writer actually too. He went to Stanford. He was a playwright. Graduated as a playwright. He tried to break into TV, and he had the opposite of me. He's like, I don't want to go through any of that bullshit. It's too hard. So he ended up becoming a designer.
I relate to both of you really hard.
So hard. I relate to my husband all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
it's
good for you for stopping.
Oh yeah. It's so funny. I've taken multiple pilots out, and I remember
hard.
I hate it.
TV's hard.
I was in a room, and I didn't know at the time how many times I was going to hear this. This is the very beginning of a water bottle tour, and I get in this room and they go, "We loved this script," and I'm sitting there thinking, "I am a king. I am amazing. I didn't know I was such a good writer." Yeah. And they go, "It's so funny, so much heart, blah blah blah." And I'm telling you, I didn't even see the change happen in the sentence because I was living in the first half. They go, "So we're not going to buy it,
right?
But we just like love it. We just had to meet you." And I'm like, "Huh?
Yeah."
What? That happened another
like, why does that happen?
15 times.
Yeah.
And within a
nothing
week.
comes from it.
Nothing.
Yes.
And I remember my manager at the time, he goes, "Hey, we killed it." And I was like, "We what?"
Yeah.
We did nothing.
We got nothing out of this.
We did zero.
I had a free coffee.
No, can I tell you? Don't even think I got a free coffee. And if I had, maybe I would have been fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I don't miss TV.
No. I do remember someone had said to me, they were like, if you want to staff on this show, you certainly can. And I was like, sure, I'm down to do that. And then they were like, also, if you want something immediate, we have a writer's assistant position. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
I don't type fast enough for that.
I was like, can't do it.
Writer's assistants have like the most heralded job in TV.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the best writers assistants.
I also
they don't get
enough
credit.
I can't not voice my opinion. It's an issue. So I can't. People might say something like, "Yeah, and what if we do this?"
Being staffed isn't for you then.
Yeah. I if someone was like, "Maybe we do this," I would have a tough time being like, "Yeah, it breaks up the whole story. It ruins everything.
Yeah.
They have no development. There's no more arc." It's hard, but that's interesting. Okay, so you give him that script. He reads that. He's like, "You should do this."
Yeah.
And then you're just like, "Okay, cool, freaky."
Well, no. So this was like, 3 years. Freaky's 3 years after this. So I take the script he liked. And I rewrite it. I like update it, rewrite it
As a horror comedy,
it's more squeamish. It's more scary with a little bit of comedy.
I have watched every single Scream.
Scream movies are awesome.
Love.
Are my favorite. First Scream is why I decided I wanted to write.
The first Scream is hard to
it's
beat.
iconic. Yeah.
I'm not to talk about another movie, but the one thing I will say is we were watching Five Nights at Freddy's last night.
Oh yeah, how was it?
It's good.
Yeah,
it is good. If you can kind of like,
it's for kids.
Yeah, if you can get on board with the fact that it's PG-13,
it's fine.
But what I was gonna say is my favorite part of the movie, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah,
going back to the Scream tapes.
Yeah, love him. So I rewrote the script, and then I decided that I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do like a table read for this and see what happens.
Sure.
So I like put together this table read, and like did everything you're not supposed to do. I was like blind emailing execs and producers. Like I didn't care. I was just like, I didn't have representation. I was just like, I'm just gonna fucking do this. And one of them I did was Jason Blum.
I'm sorry, you
cold emailed Jason Blum.
And you knew at the time, like, this is at the time, I imagine he was still the Jason Blum. Like, he wasn't just kind of
He was
Jason.
already the Jason Blum.
Dear Lord.
So I cold emailed Jason Blum, invited him to my table read, get an email back from him 45 minutes later.
45 minutes later?
And he goes, I can't make it, but I'm going to send my vice president, Ryan Turek. So he invites Ryan Turek, comes to the table read. I become friends with Ryan Turek because of this table read.
The most insane story I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was probably 10 or so companies there. Turek liked the script, but he was like, we're not going to make this right now because they weren't making slasher movies. Blumhouse wasn't making slasher movies in 2016.
What was I'm trying to remember the big things that were out.
Ghost stories, haunted houses.
Got it.
They were, Insidious was still Insidious was kind of big. Sinister, those were
Two
the kind
movies
of
I can't watch.
And they were
Too
also that was when Blumhouse was still kind of doing one location stuff.
Oh, sure.
When they were making movies for $4 million.
Yeah.
And mine was kind of big. So that movie didn't lead to the script didn't lead to anyone buying it, but it led to Ryan Turek and I becoming friends, and who then was like, hey, we're starting a podcast network. Would you create a queer podcast for us? So I created a queer horror podcast for them. And then
another super niche.
Yeah. Queer horror podcast. It was just me and two other people, and we would essentially pick a movie and we would dissect it from a queer lens.
I love that.
Super queer, or it was like, oh, this is how when you're 15 and there's no queer horror movies, this is how you make something queer in your own head.
What was the first movie that you did as part of that podcast?
What was the first movie we did? High Tension.
I don't think I've even heard of High Tension.
High Tension is a French slasher movie. It's really good.
Okay.
Really, really good. Alexander Aja, you familiar with him?
No.
He did Crawl. And then he did The Hills Have Eyes remake.
Okay. Now we're on the same path here. Yeah.
Good director. High Tension came out in 2003. It's a really good movie.
Okay.
It's really scary.
Yeah. Oh.
Then it has this twist in the last 10 minutes that just derails the whole movie.
Oh, not a good twist.
Not a good twist. But it ties into queer themes and stuff because of the twist. So that was the first movie we discussed. But anyway, I was able to get Chris Landon on the podcast.
Yeah.
And we became buddies, and that's kind of led to Freaky.
This is insane.
Yeah, it's a weird, long story.
And by the way, I want to keep talking, but I do want to get to our first segment because I know we have limited time.
Yes.
The first segment is called The Newly Friend Game. It's like the Newlywed Game, but we're friends. I think I would say that we're on the way.
We're on the way.
We're on the path.
We're on the way, Josh.
So the way this works is I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to write down your answer. I'm going to write down what I think your answer is, and we'll see if we get it right, and then we'll do the same thing for me. Given that all we're talking about right now is horror, scary movies, I can't say horror. Does anyone
can't say it either.
well?
My friends make fun of me.
Yeah, listen, I get made fun of. Being engaged, that's all I do is get made fun of. So my question for you is, what is your favorite horror movie of this year?
This year?
And don't say it out loud. Write it down, but just that came out this year. All right, tell me when you're ready. Oh, okay, I don't think we have the same one because you are writing much more than I did.
Okay.
All right, flip your board on 3. 1, 2, 3. Evil Dead Rise. I said
You're
Megan.
close. Megan is great.
I cannot get enough Megan.
Close.
Evil Dead Rise looked absolutely horrifying.
It's really scary, but it's really fun. It's really fun.
Can I see it if I haven't seen the Evil Dead movies?
Yes.
Is it better if I have?
No.
Okay.
It's pretty. There's little nuggets here and there that you would know if you have seen the other ones.
Okay.
But nothing that. No, it doesn't connect to the remake at all. I mean, it kind of connects. The thing I really like about it is if you know the films, they do them kind of a little bit of a thing where you were like, oh, they're connecting them to all the ones that already exist.
Got it.
But if you've never seen them and you don't know that, it doesn't matter.
It looks legitimately horrifying.
It's scary, but it's super fun.
Okay, let's do mine really fast, just in the interest of time. I want to talk more about that, but and you don't know me too well, so we're going to see if you can nail this. My favorite scary movie of this year, and I'm going to be honest, because we don't know each other too well, I'm going to write down 2, and I will give you credit for either one. And I will say that if I were putting down 3, my third would probably be Megan. All right.
Damn it, I just wrote Megan.
Oh, no.
I was going to put Totally Killer.
Okay, so Smile was my first one, and Totally Killer was my second.
Smile was last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay, well then Totally Killer is my answer. Boop. Oh, you know what? I saw Smile this year. That's why I wrote that.
Smile was
Totally
last
Killer.
year.
Totally Killer is then my answer. Can I tell you something? Totally Killer, criminally underwatched. That's the whole segment. You could put it down.
Totally Killer was so funny. I saw that at Beyond Fest.
I cannot understand why more people are not talking about that movie.
Well, weirdly, it's the whole streaming thing, right? It was #1 in the world last week on Amazon.
Totally Killer was #1 in the world?
Yes.
How is no one talking? In my circles,
Because streaming
no one's talking
movies come out and then they like no one talks about them. It's crazy. My friend produced that. The two of the guys that produced Knife, This Wonderful Knife, produced Totally Killer, also produced Freaky.
So that's why I liked it. It's kind of
well, you
coming
can
from
tell
the
it's
same
kind
group.
of from the same family. And Nanachka Khan directed it. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm not as
Nanachka.
familiar with her, but I looked up everything about this movie after I watched it.
Nanachka's awesome. I know her a tiny little bit. She worked on American Dad. She was a writer on American Dad when I was working in production at Family Guy.
Oh.
So I was familiar with her for a long time, but first movie she's ever directed. Amazing.
That movie leans into comedy
so
in the way, where she's like, I can't believe you'd say that. And she's like, well, I haven't done coke yet.
Yeah, it's
and
so
I was
funny.
Like,
Well, then when the guy throws the baggie of blood on the ground.
Absolute riot. This whole movie, it was hilarious.
Super funny. And I really loved at Beyond Fest, Chris Landon hosted a Q&A with her. So it was the two of them, and it was a riot.
I wish I had seen it.
It was so funny. But Chris and I were laughing because it was just like, it was really, the thing I really appreciated about it is like, it was dirty.
Yeah.
A lot of people are wanting shit sanitized right now, I feel like, and I think that's kind of a Marvel, like a Disney connection.
Well, the Five Nights at Freddy's sanitizing.
Yeah. That I understand because it's like a younger franchise, but like, it was refreshing to hear them talk about blowjobs.
Oh, 100%.
Or like calling each other bitches. Because like people are even afraid to use the word bitch in a movie anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, but I don't know. I love the movie because it went to a lot of places that you can't really go to anymore.
Absolutely. I love the part where he was like, like someone's like, oh yeah, she crashed. It's like, oh, probably because women shouldn't drive. And she's like, no, what? No, that's not the lesson.
Yeah, all the funny like 80s things.
Oh my God, it was incredible.
If just think if she gave head, she'd probably still be alive. And she's like, let's not make that the
It was
lesson
so well. I love that like our lead was essentially playing the role of like, I know what the audience is probably thinking. Let me deliver it. But I want to get back to, because I think that movie does something that your movies do as well, which is you are injecting some cast members that immediately you're like, oh my God, how is this person in the movie? So for Totally Killer, like Julie Bowen was in there, and I'm just like,
great.
What? I think she's good in everything. I would literally watch her read a dictionary and be like,
she's so good in the opening scene of that
so
movie.
captivating.
Yeah.
But for you, as I'm watching It's a Wonderful Knife now, just to be honest, I intentionally did not want to do a boatload of research before watching it, because I was like, I'm going to get to watch the movie. Yeah. Right. I'm watching this thing. Justin Long, like I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just going to say like, plays an important part. He's got a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Joel McHale, slightly less screen time, but a bunch of screen time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to forget her name, but the girl who's so good in Yellow Jackets.
Jane Whittem.
Yep. Also amazing. Also Cassandra Nod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her in Influencer.
Yeah. It's weird. We got her after she shot that, but it hadn't come out yet.
That was a great movie.
And we didn't, I hadn't even heard of that movie. And it's like it's a hit.
Yeah, well,
she's like listed first in like a bunch of stuff for our movie, and she's got like 4 lines in the movie.
But everyone I saw, and I'm just, and then I look, and I'm because I know you wrote it, and then I'm looking at the credits, and of course you also produced it.
Yeah.
How did you get these people? Because you got them, you didn't just get them as like stunt one-line casting. I mean, these people are in this movie.
Yeah, we got Joel really early. Joel, we had someone involved in the movie initially who worked with Joel before. So it was just a phone call. The thing I love about Joel McHale is like, he's game for anything. Like if you notice, like he does everything. He's in like 50 shows right now.
I saw him in a movie that was also criminally underwatched called Becky. I saw him in that.
Great movie. Becky's an awesome movie. The
like,
sequel's great too.
Sequel I thought was even better.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is Joel McHale doing here?
Yeah. Joel's in a movie called Happy that's really great.
I don't think I saw that, but I remember seeing a billboard for it.
Yeah, it came out during the pandemic. Smaller movie, pretty good. But he also he was like, I remember telling him during the summer, I was texting him, I was like, dude, you guys are on strike, but your face is on every fucking billboard in this city. And he's like, yeah, I pretty much don't say no to anything. Because he was in like 50 reality shows that he had already taped. He was like in a cooking show, and he was like in all this stuff. But so we got him really early. Like he didn't even read the script. He just agreed to do the movie. So
did
he was the first person.
Help get it made, or did the fact that it was going to be made help get him?
It was like both. Like we had this weird thing with the studio where we had to like get these 3. They had to approve 3 of the roles in order to like trigger the money.
Was it?
So it was Joel was 1, Justin was 2, and then Jane was 3.
Yeah.
So like once we got those 3, that's then the money got triggered to go shoot the movie, essentially. So we had Joel first.
Yeah.
And then Jane auditioned. Like That's surprising. They read on tape.
Yeah.
We got a tape from them and they read and we loved them. So like it was clear that they were who we wanted. And I know like for the director Tyler, they were on a short list of people that he preferred.
Oh.
And so we got Jane that way. They did an audition. And then Justin was the last person cast in the movie. He was cast like maybe a week and a half before we started shooting. And that's a weird story because
that big of a role was a week.
Yeah, dude,
a week and a half.
It was crazy. So the initial,
I'm getting nervous for you. Right
it was nerve wracking because it was like, are we going to make this movie? So the initial script had like the character that he played was like a 60-year-old man. It was more of like a boomer type, boomer age, that kind of thing. And we just had trouble finding a person for it.
I'm trying to think about that movie would have been a very different
movie. And like Buck was his like 20-year-old son instead of his little brother. And he had like a trophy wife and like, it was a very different dynamic with the family. And it was like hard. We couldn't cast it. We couldn't find anybody that would only work for like 4 days.
Wait a minute. Justin Long did that in 4 days?
Did 4 days. And we wanted somebody that would only work for like 4 or 5 days. We had a lot of people a lot of 55, 60, 65-year-old men that wanted to be the lead of the movie. So it was like a hard thing, or it was too much money. Like it was just like really hard. So then I rewrote it and I was like, oh, idea. What if we made Henry Waters, Evelyn Waters, and the villain was a woman?
That could have been interesting.
So then we rewrote it for that. And then we were like, I was like dying to get Courtney Cox, but she was unavailable. So like, that was kind of proving to be the same thing. It was more or less like either the person was too expensive or they wanted a bigger part, like all this stuff. So we were like honestly getting desperate. We're like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Like, how are we going to cast this role? We were like even thinking for a while there, like, okay, what if we went with like a 35-year-old woman? And like, she had a trophy boyfriend and like all this stuff. And it was just, I was constantly changing the character, trying to get somebody to cast. And then it kind of hit me. I was rewriting it the whole way. Like when Sean Deppner, who plays Buck Waters, Justin's brother in the movie, when he auditioned for the movie, the character was 20 and was the trophy husband of Evelyn Waters. The character was still a woman. We cast him. And when we cast him, I remember speaking up at a meeting and being like, you guys, Sean Deppner, even though he plays 16 on Riverdale, he looks 35. And I think that's part of the joke on Riverdale.
Sure.
And so I looked it up and I was like, he's 30 years old. Let's make the character 30. This was my pitch. I was like, let's make the character 30. Let's make it Henry again.
Yeah.
And Henry's his older brother. So he can be like 40.
Yeah.
And then Evelyn's the wife. So I like reordered and I was like, everyone kind of is like, that's the formula. And then someone goes, I hope Justin Long's available. And we all like, ah, ha, 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 ha. So the other producer on the movie, Seth, called his agent and he's like, yeah, Justin's actually up in Vancouver right now shooting Goosebumps, and his last day is the first day of your movie. So we like quickly got him to read it and he liked the script and did a quick negotiation. Pretty much negotiation actually probably took 2 weeks. So it sounds like he got cast right before, but we were talking to him probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the movie started shooting. Quick negotiation. And then lastly, it was like he wanted control over the look and tone of his character. So like the teeth and everything, that was all him. And we were like, go for it.
That is
Isn't it wild? Yeah.
Also, it's like there is a interesting like, and I don't think he ever went away per se, but like a resurgence of Justin Long coming through horror movies like Barbarian.
Yeah. And then Goosebumps, the TV show and stuff. So yeah, we got really lucky getting him because like it was like 9 days before he had to be on set when he signed. And I don't know what would happen.
There's a scene, and I don't want to like get into too much detail, but there is a wonderful scene where you just like see what he can do when he's on that stage. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know who else could have done this.
I don't know who could play the part.
There's a charm that comes with this snarky, there's just like a lot of different personality that comes through in that one particular moment.
Yeah.
That was just like, I'm like, I don't know who would have done this.
Yeah, when I asked him, I go, "What was your motivation here?" I was like, "These teeth, you have blue contacts in, you have a wig on, all this stuff." He goes, "Joel Osteen," and I was like, "Yeah, I totally get what you're doing."
I wish I had known that before I watched that.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, that makes so much sense
great.
to
That's
me
why
now.
he's like kind of got the preacher vibe and like the kill him with kindness type thing.
That did not. I
Yeah,
can't believe
it's
I
great.
didn't spot it. But
Yeah,
now
and
that you say it, I've spotted
Yeah,
it.
in the first draft of the script, it was much more sinister. It was like very Trumpy, and I wrote it during lockdown, the first draft. So the character was a little bit like there was no charm. It was just like a total cock.
Yeah,
for lack
sure.
of a better word.
Sure.
And then once we got out of that nightmare for a second, I was able to look at the script and go, okay, yeah, maybe this won't play the same now.
No, yeah. I love what you did with it.
Yeah.
I hate to cut off our conversation.
Yeah.
I know we have a hard out soon, so I'm going to get to our lightning round. Is that
All right,
cool with
great.
you?
Do we use the
No,
board again?
you
Okay,
just
it's
chill.
answers.
You relax.
All right,
And I use the next card because it makes me feel like a late night talk show host.
great. Like Roddy.
I mean, I'm down to be
One of
anybody.
the guys. Yeah, okay.
These are 5 fast questions. You don't have to be fast answers. Question 1, what is a favorite ritual of yours? So mine is brewing tea in the morning.
Oh, first cup of coffee.
Okay.
It's literally out of bed, kiss both dogs, say hi to my husband. Dog's more important.
I love that. The
And
dogs
then-
get kisses. The husband just
husband
gets a hello.
kiss too.
Yeah.
And then go right to the Nespresso machine.
We have one too.
Yeah, boom.
Virtuo or the original?
The Virtuo is the newer one, right?
The real like big circles.
Yeah, Virtuo.
We gotta get that.
Yeah.
Question 2, what is a running bit you have with a friend or partner that makes you laugh? I'm already excited.
So
Pre-laugh. I'm here
my
for it.
really good friend Josh Conkle, he's a writer too.
He's got a great name.
Yeah, Joshua Conkle. We were watching this movie, and I'm not going to say the movie because I don't want the person who made the movie to think we're making fun of the movie.
Sure.
We were making the movie, but there's probably half a dozen to a dozen times in the movie where one character or another says sorry about earlier to another character. Like, I'm not kidding how many times they say this.
Off mic, I'm going to need to know what this is,
Yes.
but go ahead. Yeah.
So we constantly just text that to each other, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then, so it's really funny to us. And then there's also this really weird shot in the movie where like, it's like an establishing shot and it like is tracking a character and then it stops on this really weird statue, but it hangs on this white statue for like it's almost like supposed to be Grecian or something like that.
Sure.
But it hangs on the statue for really, 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 really long. So it then became from texting that to I took a photo of that, screen grabbed it, cropped it, and then added a bubble and the statue saying sorry about earlier.
Jesus.
So then now we send that to each other.
I love that. Question 3, what is one of your most controversial opinions?
I'm like blanking. I'm trying to think of something that's innocuous. I mean, olives are disgusting.
Olives are disgusting.
Olives are fucking gross.
All olives.
All olives. Get them out of my face.
Interesting. Not even, so the context doesn't matter. Martini, nothing. You just don't want to
Don't drink, but martini, I wouldn't drink a martini.
Oh,
when
yes,
I
you
drink
said you were,
because
yeah,
of the olives.
yeah.
Tapenade, bleh.
Let me tell you something. I
Anything.
like olives and I don't like tapenade.
I
So
hate olives so much.
interesting.
I mean, that's not controversial.
It's not super controversial, but if that's all you have right now,
That's
that's
all
fine.
I have right now. I also think not everybody needs an opinion about every movie.
I wish
Right?
that everyone had that opinion. Someone
Yeah.
said to me, "Why don't you have a letterboxd? You watch so many movies." I go, "I don't need to voice my feelings about every movie."
Yeah.
Sometimes I watch a movie and I go, "That was a movie."
Yeah, sometimes another opinion about movies that I'll give too is that sometimes people need to realize a movie is not for them.
Absolutely.
It's not made for you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not hating on the show I'm about to mention, but like, my fiance watched a show called New Amsterdam, and she also watched a show called 911. And I don't look at it and go, "Ugh, what schlocky, whatever." I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it's not
this
for
isn't
me.
made for me.
Yeah.
I'm not this audience.
Yeah, and some stuff is genuinely bad. That's
Sure,
made
but
for
I'm sure
people.
those things are good.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen a full episode. She watched something called Ginny and Georgia. I was like, this isn't for me.
Oh my God.
And then I watched
My
30
sister
minutes.
loved Ginny and Georgia.
And I go, this is actually not bad. It's
Yeah.
not for me, but this is not a bad show.
Well, that's what like people would when Freaky came out, people were like, why are all this gay shit? I'm like, it's not for you then, asshole. Go away.
Actually, I thought Freaky was pretty mainstream. There was something for
Pretty
everyone in there.
broad.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what do I know?
But hey,
All right, let's jump to question 4. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, is there
All
a
the time.
moment that like really sticks for you? Crazy to me that someone like you still experiences it. But
all
yeah.
the time. But Freaky, when we started getting good reviews, I thought I was like Yeah, I was
You're
like,
they must have seen a different movie.
yeah,
This couldn't
I
be
was
my
like,
movie.
this can't. Because and I also Chris is I love Chris Landon so much, but he also like the week before the movie came out, just based on his experience making 7-8 movies before Freaky.
Yeah.
He was like, he called me one day and he's like, hey, I just want you to know how proud I am of this movie and how proud I am of you. He goes, but I also want you to be prepared that like people aren't going to like the movie and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, we'll probably get mixed reviews. The people that love the movie and the people that the movie needs to find are going to watch it and like it. And he goes, just forget the rest. And then like 3 days later, the reviews start coming out. And he calls me, he goes, I guess, forget what I fucking said. This is insane.
Yeah.
We ended up with like an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I don't know if it was a mixture of being prepped by Chris in the way, but I think he's right. I think we just hit a moment that people were waiting for.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the reviews started coming, and I remember thinking like, what fucking when's the shoe gonna drop? Am I gonna get fucking killed tomorrow? And like, am I gonna walk out of the house and a plane's gonna land on me? Like, yeah, like who did this?
It's funny. I talk to a lot of people, and sometimes I have to talk to people whose projects I didn't like, and that creates an interesting scenario where I don't say I love it. I go, yeah, no. So tell me more about. But I can tell you with a very straight face, Freaky was one of my favorites of the past several years.
That,
truly, I watched it twice.
I love my own movie. I love that movie. As well
you should. Final question, then we'll get you out of here. I always ask people, what is your favorite tea or comfort? But I don't know if you're a big tea drinker.
Not a huge tea drinker.
So what is your favorite comfort?
Favorite comfort, like food or?
It could be anything. Like
my
some people.
favorite, when I feel like my best and just so content, is every night my husband and I lay on our couch together and our dogs lay with us. It's wonderful.
Are we doing a TV show or a movie in this context? I need to know. I'm putting my mind in here. Are you watching? We're watching
a movie.
You're watching a movie.
Watching a movie. Watching whatever. But yeah, it's very ritual. That's another ritual.
But I think that's wonderful. That is amazing. A comfort. That's the key.
And we have a 45-pound dog and a 35-pound dog. So we have these substantial dogs.
I was going to say, 45 pounds is a big dog.
Oh, she's so pretty. I love her so much.
Give me quick names on these pups.
Lady Scooby Strode, and then Sister Bandit Boo Strode.
I'm obsessed with those names. I hate to cut this off because it was so fun.
It was so fun.
But that's the pod. How
I
do you
can't
feel?
believe that's how fast it went.
I know.
I was having such a good time.
Quick and easy.
Great.
Come back anytime. Next time you write a movie, come hang out.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Josh.
That was Michael Kennedy. You can find him at Michael T. Kennedy on Instagram, and you can see It's a Wonderful Knife only in theaters on November 10th. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Elliot G.B. Our associate editor is Martin Alvarez. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.